Good evening and welcome to Weaving Web3 with me, James.
Me, Chris.
And me, Stash.
Today I'm going to bore you all to death. It's the end of January, so I've decided again, what better to talk about than tax? And then I think later on, Chris might share how the rug has been pulled out from his feet again this week in this latest escapade. I'd like to start this with an open question to you boys. How much do you know about how any of your digital assets, we use digital assets for NFTs, crypto, etc. How much do you boys know about how they're taxed?
Only what you've told us over the last few episodes. I know that
Yeah.
I can claim tax back from buying NFTs from the gas fees. I can't claim tax back from just purchasing crypto when there's a fee, because that's part of acquiring assets. And
Yeah.
I have up to 3 years. If I've lost money back in the day, I can claim it back on tax. The deducted from my tax, so capital gains tax, something like that.
Stash is doing his homework. He wants to prove something to you.
So what I wanted to start with you two boys is obviously this is very UK centric, but I think it'll be fine, and we'll talk about what we've got to talk about. But in the UK, cryptocurrency, most people seem to think it's taxed as a thing called capital gains. Now, capital gains is like, I've used an example before. You buy a vase. I like using the example of vase. It could be anything. You buy a vase. The vase is worth £6,000 when you buy it.
Bloody hell! I don't think I've ever seen a £6,000.
I've chosen that number for a very tax-specific reason. Okay. So it's £6,000 when you buy it.
A £6,000 vase.
You buy it, it's £6,000. You then sell it in 10 years' time, it's worth £10,000. And that's a really simple calculation, isn't it? What they'll tax you on. They will say, what's 10,000 less 6,000, 4,000 will tax you on the bit in the middle. Right? So that is, in the most basic instance, how the government decides to tax you on something. So if we'll move that into a crypto scenario. You buy Ethereum for £100. It's now worth 1,000. The point at which you sell it, 900 in tax. But with cryptocurrencies and stuff, it then gets very confusing because people talk about realized gains, unrealized gains, how that all flows through.
Yeah.
And do you guys understand what people mean by realized and unrealized gains?
Unrealized gains is if you haven't sold, but you're in profit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or no.
Yeah. No, that's completely correct. So that's your unrealized gain is a gain you haven't cashed in, essentially. But that's where some people are falling awry of the UK tax system. In people's heads, if they bought Ethereum for £100, it's worth 1,000. They go, well, I've never converted it to £1,000, never come back into my bank. They don't think that they've realized a gain. But if you bought that for £100, and in 10 years' time, when it got up to 1,000, you traded it for Bitcoin, right? The government views the point at which you've got disposed of that Ethereum is you've sold it. It doesn't matter if you bought an NFT. So what could happen is you could buy, let's make the numbers easy. So you buy 0.1 Ethereum and it costs you £100. You then buy an NFT for 1 Ethereum, right? It would realize a gain when you bought that NFT, which you would be taxable on. Does that make sense?
Oh, hang on a second. So buying an NFT is because I've sold it.
No. Right. Let's think about it this way. So essentially, what you've done is you bought an appreciating asset.
Yeah.
So you bought something for £100.
Yeah.
And when you disposed of it, it was worth 1,000.
Okay, yeah.
So go back to the vase situation. Vases you bought for 4,000, it was worth 10,000, and you swapped it when it was worth 10,000. Instead of for money, you swapped it for a car. You swapped it for a Nissan Micra.
Yeah.
What they're saying is, you've now received something that isn't that vase. You've realized your gain by trading that vase for something expensive. Therefore, we're taxing you. And this is the problem a lot of people in the crypto space do not understand. It's not the most simple way of getting it, is it? Because, I mean, that's taken me, a 2-minute run-up to pitch to how that happens.
Yeah.
So what's happening is, if you bought your ETH yonks ago, and you go, oh, don't worry, I've never made a gain because I've never taken it out to fiat. It's actually irrelevant, because if you bought, for example, let's say you bought ETH, you got given ETH. Say you were in it years ago, you're given ETH in an airdrop, or SUI in an airdrop, or whatever in an airdrop. If at the point at which you trade that for some ETH, or you buy an NFT that's got a different value that can be publicly seen, you've sold it. You've realized your gains. So this is something I keep saying. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, so let's say does it work the same when, let's say I bought Ethereum at £1,000, it went down to £500.
Yeah.
And I bought an NFT with that. Let's say it was 1 ETH was 1,000, then it went down to 500. And I used that 1 ETH to buy that NFT. Will it still, is that transaction still count, and that becomes deductible and stuff like that?
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly how it works. So if I work through this, so you bought Ethereum for £1,000, it's dropped its value to £500, and you bought an NFT for £500, right?
Yeah.
It's all still 1 ETH, but worth £1,000 and worth £500. What you then end up with is, you go, well, I bought 1 ETH for 1,000, so I put 1,000 in. I now own an NFT that's worth 500, and that's it. I don't have anything else of any value. So what we're saying there is, if you bought ETH £1,000, dropped to 500, and you bought an asset that was worth then £500, what you end up with is no ETH, an asset worth £500, so you'd have a loss of £500. So, but this is capital gains, and I just want people to be aware of how this structure works in the UK, because if you think I've never taken my money out, there's no tax, that's not how the government view it at all.
So,
yeah.
I just asked something. So I've been following this whole Andrew Tate thing, right? Because he's a scumbag piece of shit. Sorry.
Whoa. You know Stash loves the top G.
What do you mean? Stop.
Stash loves the top G.
No, that's taking it too far. It was all right. Top G is too far.
Stash doesn't even talk to women.
He loves men so.
I know, he hates it. That's how gangster he is. Sorry.
And I saw a video. Obviously, he ran this whole cam business, right? And he got paid in Bitcoin. And he was like, "Oh yeah, you don't pay the tax on Bitcoin and stuff like that." So criminals like that, right, who are never going to pay their tax, how do you track them down and make sure that they do pay their tax? Obviously, as a regular trader and stuff like that, you need to be in the know of these sorts of things, right? Because this is really good information that when you make a trade, it's actually taxable. But for people who are doing it like against the law, like sort of thing, like how can they track that using a block?
So the government isn't really set up for blockchain stuff. I'm honest with you, they're not. Governments are very slow moving, big, heavy beasts, and they're not that hot on doing this sort of stuff. I'm certain that they've got high level cybercrime units that are very in tune with it, but like the Taxman, not so much.
Good for us now.
Well, I'm not a criminal. I'm not having this.
What you're saying is that the repercussions of me not claiming that I did a trade, or not claiming that I've bought ETH at £100 and sold it at £1,000, there currently aren't any.
No. So the problems you have are when people try and off ramp into either real assets or fiat. So if you are a business, if you set up as a limited company in the UK, and your bank, be it any of the traditional banks, your NatWest, Halifax, etc., if they see lots of money coming in from cryptocurrency exchanges, they will say, "We're terminating your account. Please find someone else." It's not within their money laundering risk profiles to accept that. So then people went to alternate banks, Monzo, Starling, etc., Revolut. They are now doing the same, where they are saying, if we see lots of fiat on and off ramping to cryptocurrency sites, they are essentially saying we can't track that money, therefore we are not interacting. Okay. So not so much for personal, like I say a lot of money, like some people make a lot of money in crypto. Do you mean it wouldn't be unusual to see people on and off ramping, you know, £100,000 in a month quite happily, but do you mean the numbers like that aren't silly, are they? If you're actually doing anything of any size. Yeah. But like the everyday trader who doesn't have very much money in it, like us, no problem. But the problem, the only way really that Taxman stuff sees is when you want to do something legitimate with your money. So like you two haven't bought a house yet, but when you go to buy a house, if your primary source of funds for purchasing a house,
sly.
No, I was just saying,
you guys haven't got houses. You poor people.
When you buy a house, there's an awful lot of checking into your finances to see where your money's come from, and that's a big problem for people in crypto. And I think one way of making sure that when you go to use that money, it's more legitimate is doing your tax returns. Because actually, that's a big part of the problem, I think, sometimes is that banks are like, well, you've got all this money from crypto. It wasn't your tax return that you've made a load of income. So they then get confused about, well, where's this money come from? What's happened, etc. So to be open and to make it easier to off-ramp, and it's not easy now, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it for people. Just because you've submitted your crypto tax return doesn't mean that the bank's going to be absolutely delighted when you go, yep, I've made £100,000 in crypto. They will not like it because they don't understand it. But if you've engaged with a financial institution and they've helped you do your taxes and you've paid the taxman tax, it's gonna sit much better with them just because you're giving an air of legitimacy. That's not to say that people who don't do high-level money laundering, etc., don't pay their tax, because they absolutely do, because they want to off-ramp. But yeah, that's like a common thing, is like buying an asset that has a good resale value. So I think a lot of cash money launderers used to do stuff like they buy cars. So you buy a car at one dealership in cash because he's dodgy, and then you sell it to another dealership for a bank transfer. Okay. And when somebody says, where's that cash from? You go, I sold a car. And that way you've then got a receipt from, they sold us this car. But do you know what I mean? And it's, people do stuff like that in the traditional sense. But then, I think it's difficult though, because not every country. So I've talked about capital gains in the UK there and about how in the UK you can be up against taxable events. But other countries like Portugal, they don't tax cryptocurrency gains. It's not taxed, so it's very different in every country. And I don't know where Stash and Top G were running their camming operation, but I'm imagining
I'm not associated at all. Please.
Well, not anymore. Not obviously.
Anymore, you cut ties after.
When you two got swatted together, you were like, that's enough of this, But yeah,
as two poor people with no houses,
Any more? Right. Do you think we should do any more tax bits, or?
I have a question for tax.
Oh, please, right, okay. Right, we'll kick back in. Let's do some more tax. And right. Honestly, I'd love to hear your questions.
Like, so
down in the comments or Stash's question.
But any or both. I'll only charge you £110 an hour. Absolutely not a problem.
Wow, make sure if you like and subscribe, then you get it for free. So.
Yeah, that is actually true. That is a discount.
That's perfect. Because like most of the time when you buy other cryptos on decentralized exchange, you buy in the ETH first, then you sell, and then I buy another crypto for it. So is there basically a double tax if it's gone up in that moment and then I buy it for another crypto?
You technically could have a gain or a loss there, but it's so small that it very rarely is an issue. The big issue, though, I will say with the taxes, so many people don't track it, which I think is a very, very stupid thing to do, because if you don't track it, you can end up on the wrong side of it. And actually, like, I'll not that they pay us any money, but Coinly is a software I use a lot in my job. It is free. You can API link in any exchanges you want. If you've got like a MetaMask, you literally just paste your MetaMask MetaMask public key in there. It just goes through, pulls all your transactions in for you, and it does it all for you. You don't need to spend ages doing it.
Yeah.
But what you do need to do, and this is a thing that I've sort of been saying to people for pretty much a year now, is don't trust the information that it comes out of the machine, though, because although it's really good at scraping the data off the blockchain, it will do things like this. So let's say you're floor sweeping NFTs, right? And let's say you're a baller, you're floor sweeping NFTs that are worth 2 ETH each, right? So you put in a buy order, you put in 7 ETH, and you say buy 3 NFTs, all right? What will happen is in your contract with OpenSea, the contract will be receive X amount of ETH plus fees, and then they will send you, having received that at the same time, the same minute, they will send you out 3 NFTs. Problem is, though, the softwares are not smart enough to go, what is the price on OpenSea for each one of these? So what it does is it brings in 3 NFTs, and when we talk about the VAR's cost base, right? So how much do you pay for it? It brings in 3, because it doesn't see a single transaction that matches against. It says you got them all for free. So that if you don't check the point at which you sell one of those for £3,000 and you bought it for 2,000, it is going to notch a gain in there for you for £3,000, because the software is not smart enough to deal with the smart contracts yet. So you can see in the smart contract amount of ETH paid for NFTs. You could look on OpenSea to verify those prices, but that's a common issue I see as well. Is people have used a tax software and they just take for granted that, oh, this is fine. The tax software says it does my taxes. They must be right. People need to sanity check that data, because it's so easy for it to be wrong.
Is that only if you buy more than one NFT in one go?
No, it can happen with lots of situations to us, Sash. So, for example, let's say you had a burn to mint NFT, right? So you buy the stash token and you pay £1,000 for it. You then send that to a smart contract. They send you the much better, new, improved Chris token that comes back in. This one's shiny. It's got a beard trait. It's lost dangly earring though, because that was rare, but that's gone. It might still be there. It could be under long hair. We don't know. So you burn the stash token, you receive the Chris token. Again, the software sees you had bought the stash token for 1,000 and essentially sent it away somewhere, disposed of it, burnt it, and then it sees you receive Chris. What it doesn't do is go, let's pass the base cost on, because the value of the Chris token should be what you paid for the stash.
Yeah.
So in that instance, then what you need to do is you need to match them up so that base cost carries. So again, and those are just 2 examples with NFTs. Like, you get it with tokens all the time. You get it with all sorts of things. If you go into a Uniswap liquidity pool, right? So I'm doing a USDT and I'm doing something else liquidity pool. I buy some KKLP with both. It might put in the price for one of them for the USDT, because it goes, okay, that's fine, I've got it from this. But it might put in a base cost for the other bit, the rest of your cake, with a base cost of nothing, because it's mucking up somewhere along. And that then means when you transfer back out of the liquidity pool, it goes, oh, he's made a massive gain on this USDT because it's in at half the price it should have been. So what I would say with all the coin and the tax stuff is people need to be aware of what they're doing, actually keep a track of what they're doing, and have an idea in their heads around what sort of gain they've made. Is what I don't want.
Oh, no, go for it.
No. All I was going to say was, I just don't want to see people putting their information into a software going, oh, that gain's high, but the software must be right, and just accepting it. But and I said, for you two boys, I will happily go through and help you sort out any taxes and get you boys all up to date.
Thank you.
I would just need to be aware that obviously when the gains limit drops to 3,000, which is in a few years' time, but that's not a big number. Do you know what I mean? You get if you bought
3,000 really easily just by doing things like, spending 100 quid here, 100 quid there, sort of thing.
But that's what I mean. Like, imagine you buy, I don't know. Imagine you buy any token early just because there's a lot of hype around this. I'll just buy some. It'd be quite easy to have bought, £200-300 of BNB, and then it now be worth thousands today. Do you know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah.
For £3,000, it's not that hard. So I think people just need to be aware of that. And NFTs are notoriously hard to keep the right cost bases in, but only for computers. Humans can do it pretty easily.
Because you go first. No, you go first.
Just ask, so obviously you've realized a gain when you trade, but how do they track the price of ETH at that exact moment.
So what Coinly do is they've got API links into CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko's live pricing.
Okay.
So they take it from that.
And it gives you like, rather than an ETH fee, it sort of gives you like the.
So it'll say the fee will be in whatever native token you used, ETH, BNB, whatever, and it would also say next to it how much that was in fiat.
Okay.
To whatever fiat you choose. Obviously, you could do it in euros, you could do it in dollars, you could do it in whatever. That's how they do it. But yeah, no, the softwares are very good at scraping the info and finding prices. It's just finicky bits that can have a big impact on your taxes aren't done well. Did you have a question, Sash?
Yes. So just one thing I was wondering about. So obviously with the apes, when there was mutant apes, that you could buy like serums and stuff to mutate your ape even more and more. So you buy, let's say, a vial at 1 ETH, and then you apply it to the mutant ape. Can you, because you were burning that vial, can you claim that as a tax because you basically lost that 1K?
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it doesn't exist anymore, but it's given traits to your thing.
100%. The gain of having the mutant ape afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's, we're talking about realized and unrealized gains. So what you'd have there is if you burnt that 500. So say that vial cost you 500, right?
Yeah.
It's not fair to say that you lost 500 because you haven't. Yeah. You've still used it. You've still got that asset. You've just put it somewhere else. So what you would do,
but it doesn't mean that £500 is added to that mutant ape because
as your base cost. So it doesn't mean that you get taxed. It essentially works as like a tax deduction because you're putting £500 onto what you paid for that mutant ape now.
Oh, okay.
And Chris makes the fair point though that it's probably going to go up by more than £500.
Yeah.
But yes, absolutely. But serums and stuff like that should be brought in as well.
Apply it 3 times, and then let's say you bought 3 different serums, you could deduct that price, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and it increases your base costs because, but it's all stuff like this. Like I think it's quite difficult because unless you understand how the tax system works, how would you ever know that these were problems?
Yeah, that's
like you wouldn't know as an individual. And I don't know. I feel like a lot of people could do with having knowledge of the tax structures they work in. Obviously, I'm only speaking for the UK, but people need to understand how it all flows through and how it's taxed. And the other thing I'll say in there as well is not all cryptocurrency is taxed as capital gains, right? If you stake ETH and you get paid in ETH, that's taxed as income. In the same way that if you had £1 million in the bank and they paid you £10,000 interest every month, that's not taxed as a capital gain. It's income. You are lending people money and they are paying you for doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but you're not lending them money. You're lending them an asset.
Yes. So, okay, the same way then, if you, so Chris, you lend someone a non-depreciating asset. Let's say a house. You lend someone a house. They pay you the privilege of using the house, and then you can get the house back whenever you want. Yeah, I mean, same sort of structure. In that system, the rent you're receiving from the tenants isn't taxed as a capital gain, despite the fact it's linked to an asset, because they are paying you for a service. Now, rent's slightly different in that instance, like the same with like using a car or whatever. But in essence, the service you're providing is liquidity. Yeah. So I'm providing liquidity to Coinbase, and they pay me 4% per year. But that's all taxed as income.
Okay.
So,
cool.
but you have to remember as well. Capital gains in the UK you get up to 12,300 is free, then 10%, then 20%. But income, you get 12,570 for free, and then it's 20%, 40%, 45%. So if you are a higher rate taxpayer, all your staking income, you could lock 40% off that straight off the bat. So it's stuff like that can make a really big impact because people don't realize what's happening. A few bad ones we've seen as well is with if you bought, say, for example, a token that was a rebasing token, or if you bought like nodes as a service. Again, do you guys remember the nodes as a service?
Yeah.
Strong was like the big one, but the payouts you get from Strong nodes, that's income tax because you haven't. It's not a capital gain. You are giving someone a node, and it is then paying you. So the problem that a lot of people have had is they've got their node, they've set it up, they're getting paid £200 a day or whatever, and they reinvest. Right now, they will be taxed on that income that they made as they received it. Okay, and the fact that they've put that money back into Strong, and ultimately that's rug pulled, it actually hits the two different sides of the tax system. So I'll try and make this clear. So you buy some Strong and you lend it out to someone, essentially, right? Or you buy a node. They are then paying you something back. So the money you're receiving there is in the income tax sphere, right? If you were able to sell that node, the actual node you purchased 3 months down the line, that would be capital gains, because that's the value of the node. The income, though, is taxed separately. But what's happened to a lot of people is, if you were making loads of money off your node and going, oh, this is great, I'll reinvest, you're going to have a whacking big income tax bill and nothing to offset against it. Because the government would say, and you'd go, well, they gave me £200 a day, but I put it back into the system and it's worth nothing now. The government go, but yeah, you could have turned that Strong on that day into £200. You chose not to. And the way they sometimes look at that is the same way that imagine Chris's face is not sitting with me here. The way HMRC see this a little bit is, Chris, imagine that.
For me, who doesn't sell?
Yeah,
like you could be fun.
Oh no, it's gone up. Wow. Okay, I could have sold it at 300 quid, and now it's worth 50 quid.
The way, sorry, I'll finish this point, because the way the government see this is, imagine if you claimed, right? Imagine your job paid you, right? Paid you, and that should be income taxable. And you went, oh, it shouldn't be taxable. Why? Because I walked down the casino and I chucked it all on black and I lost it. The government goes, yeah, but you were paid it. The fact that you chucked it away or burnt it or gambled with it is irrelevant.
What about if I had it on me and I got violently assaulted and mugged?
You would not get income tax relief on that. It's literally, if it happened to you now, Chris, if you get paid and someone mugs you on the street, the government don't give you a tax break for that. You can police report it, and you can do it. They literally don't. They don't give a shit. They go, so I don't give anything. A bleep, and they don't though. They'll tax you on what your income was when you earned it. It doesn't matter what you do with it afterwards. Yeah. Spend it on whatever you want. They don't care, and that's the problem why I've landed speaking to people this year, is that people have had big old income, and therefore tax to pay at high rates because of things like nodes. But the reality is, they have seen no benefit, and the tax system is not particularly fair like that. But it's how the tax system is structured. But no, so that's a brief overview. But the UK tax system is a bit complicated. There's lots to it. That's why people pay professionals, and it takes you ages to qualify. But if anyone would like to go over bits, you two, I think we will do it all together. Is set up a Coinly. We'll go through and update all your bits. But again, I don't know if that would maybe be a useful thing to put on about Coinly basics potentially, and just talk through bits like that, because I think lots of people don't need a finance professional to do their taxes if they're not making loads. But what they do need to know is sort of how the system works a bit, so that they know if they need a professional. Do you know what I mean? If you get to the point where you think, actually...
And you kind of need to know, like, what software to use and stuff like that as well.
Oh, yeah,
like,
absolutely, yeah.
Coinly's great for that sort of stuff, but for someone who is new to the space and just knows what, I bought ETH at 100 quid and I sold it 1,000. Yay. They don't know. They're not going to look into, how much is the tax?
Yeah, it blows my mind though. Like, if you were dealing with small numbers, I can get people are confused about their tax, whatever. But you hear like, obviously the top G, old Andrew Tate, talk about like making all his money in Bitcoin, not paying any tax. And you just think like some people do treat it as if it's like not a taxable thing at all.
I guess it depends what country he was in, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know what the tax rates were and whether you two were hanging out, but like,
gave it all away.
Yeah, I think it was somewhere in Eastern Europe. It might have been Poland.
Yeah,
Is
Romania.
anyone... Romania.
Yeah.
They're very
because
crypto friendly.
Slash has got Eastern European connections. He's over there all the time.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Absolutely not.
He's
But
gonna
no,
smash that bottle and start.
Yeah.
Right, so that was a brief overview around some tax bits. I hope I didn't bore people's heads off, but
It's important.
it is important, but it is also dull. I'll appreciate that, in that people don't really want to learn about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Chris, you have not been winning and not been making lots of money and not having to pay lots of tax. And why is that this week?
So yeah, I bought an NFT this week. I was quite happy about it actually, because I bought it. The floor was at something like 0.09, and someone just listed it for 0.07, and I was like, damn, buy straight away. And like normally in that situation, especially on OpenSea, you click it, you go to your basket or whatever, you click pay with crypto, and by the time you've done that, some bot's got it or someone else. But I managed to get through and I managed to buy it, and I was like, yay, it's gone through. I 100% thought that the transaction was going to fail. So I went through. The whole thing was pumping quite a bit. It was going well. I think it reached up to like 0.12.
And I told you to sell.
Yeah. Stash was like, sell it before they rug you.
Old Captain Hindsight in the corner.
And they rugged me.
And what's the floor price now, Christopher?
The floor price. So this is the feline experiment. By the way, I didn't say the name, but yeah, the feline experiment. I really like the idea though. But the floor price is now about 0.000.
$4.
Yeah, something like $3, $4.
What volume did they manage to do?
So they did so much better than they expected. And so wait, let me feline experiment. So let me share my screen for you guys to see. So this is there we go. Yeah, so they did 300 ETH in volume. You can see the activity here. Right, so it went average price 0.05, right? Average price 0.13.
Yeah.
0.07, and I was like, damn, okay, that's pretty good. And then it's so basically, right, the concept was really cool. It said basically it was a changing, wait one sec, stop share. There we go. So the concept was that basically you list it for it changes, your NFT changes based on the transactions on the blockchain that happen.
Yeah.
That NFT, right? So if you list it for over 0.1, it'll sort of get a rarer trait in the next sort of stage. If you list it for over 1 ETH, it'll get a better trait again, sort of thing. So yeah.
So sorry, it didn't have to sell. It just had to be listed.
Yeah, it needed to be listed, right? And in order for it, so basically everyone, I think about 60% of the collection was listed at over 1 ETH because everyone wanted like to try and get
I'm with you.
to get the better traits. But also there's, if you think about it, if everyone's listing for that price, surely that makes them the more common traits because people are listing for like 1 ETH, over 1 ETH. So everyone,
I suppose that they're just artificially trying to pump the numbers, aren't they?
Kind of, yeah. So, but basically it was like that. So your NFT would evolve based on the transactions on the blockchain, right?
Okay.
And like based on rarity, depending on for what it sells for. And yeah, so they did that. They did the initial reveal, then they did the first change, which changed it to a specific rarity, a specific group, right?
Yeah.
And then what happened was they decided, okay, let's release a companion to this, an airdrop for all the holders. So they were going to do an airdrop of the canine experiment, which was like they'd done the feline experiment. It was those little cats that I showed you. They were doing the same with these little dogs. And instead of airdropping it to everyone, some people got the contract or whatever and botted it and all of them. And everyone screamed rug. Price plummeted.
And then they rugged.
And then, you know what? Your wish is my command. And they rugged.
Thing is, right, it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? Is that by the time people start shouting rug, they kill it. I told you, like, we talked about the fun apes. I wonder what their
I was going to say,
price
I haven't even had a look at them recently. Fun
exciting.
0.03. That's not bad.
Holding.
That's actually not bad. It's been like that since pretty much mid-January.
Yeah.
It's not bad, actually. Yeah, maybe they're not. But they are just a copy of like the mutant apes, aren't they?
They're getting like 40 to 50 sales a day sort of thing as well. Like,
yeah, 780. That's not bad, actually. But yeah, anyway. But no, I just think it's such a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? Like, it's going down, and then everyone just sells. Right? Do you guys think that's the problem with NFTs? Right? Is that if you wait too long, you just can't sell? Like with tokens.
Sometimes, yeah. You have to either make sure you have your strategic plan. Some people want lots of money profit, or you just take that extra 20 quid plus gas prices. Because that's what I see a lot of the time. You see an account minting, let's say 0.01 ETH, they'll sell it for 0.02 ETH. And yeah, sure, the gas fee may be extra like 2-3 quid, but they've still got 20 quid. And then that's how you slowly build up your wealth, I guess.
Oh, I had this question for you boys, because this is something I saw the other day that I didn't know this is how it worked. Right. So if you buy something on OpenSea, you pay the gas. If you put in an offer in a smart contract, the seller pays the gas sometimes. Have you seen that?
What happens, right? So you'll see a lot of collections will have like a floor price, then a wrapped ETH sort of offer. Sometimes that best offer will be more than the floor price, depending on what the floor price is, right? So for the K9 experiment, I think the floor price was like 0.01. And the wrapped ETH offer was like 0.011.
Yeah.
That is because for that transaction, the fee, the transaction fee, the gas, gets taken out of if the buyer accepts the offer. The seller, sorry. If the seller accepts the offer, the gas gets taken from the amount that the seller gets. So all in all, a lot of people will have, I've got like 1 ETH wrapped and I don't have anything to do with it. I don't want to like transfer it back to regular ETH. So I'll just use it and use a little bit more. And inevitably it doesn't work out for the seller anyway, because they're accepting a lower price. And also the fact that
sorry, with that, is it about the ease of sale? And they can click a button and get the cash, essentially.
So they pre-program that money for like a certain price. You can do like that collection offer thing, and anyone could be like, okay, I want to accept this offer because I need liquidity quick, kind of thing. That's why people don't offer less money.
And that's what I saw as soon as like that whole thing with the K9s happened. Loads of people, even though the like floor price was at 0.07 at the time, loads of people were accepting the wrapped ETH offers.
Yeah, because it was higher.
Wrapped ETH offers for 0.04. And people were just accepting it because they wanted to sell straight away. And that's when I probably should have done as well. But no, me
one
being
of those things.
I don't know if it's stubbornness or like what, but
put it in your hidden folder.
Sorry, I'll leave that out. You know what? If I'm gonna lose the money, I'm gonna see it to 0.
And just cling onto that one sappy, the sappy that keeps you afloat.
Sappy which keeps me alive.
Sappy keep you alive.
Have we got any other NFT collections that we've seen recently that we're interested in?
I like the Chrysalis.
The Chrysalis.
Yeah, so basically it's an So it's like a anthropod, computerized 3D generated esque project. Right now it's unrevealed in DNA form, but it's like inspired by like nature of like
Oh, I think I might. Was it on the front page?
Yeah, it was on the front page. You could have minted it, and I really like the concept. I've been on their Twitter Spaces quite a few times, and I feel like I do want to buy it because for the art itself, because I love nature and like.
How's it spelled?
So Chrysalism, sorry, Chrysalism, and I think it's on the trending or on the top.
So this is a silly question then for you boys. So like, say we wanted to buy a duplicator.
Yes.
Right, and the floor price is 0.415. Right. In essence, the floor price is actually 0.41. I don't know, 25, 35, depending on what the gas would be when we go to buy it. So why are you not best to just make an offer for like 0.4 ETH, or make the offer what the floor price is if the other side are now paying gas?
You could, but anyone in that collection could accept it. You have no idea who's going to accept it.
But that doesn't matter for like the duplicators, does it? Because they're all the same at the moment. Do you know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
However, there is specifically with the duplicators, right? They have already been implemented, and this is going back to Doodles 2 that we were talking about last week. But some of them have been used already, some of them have not. So if
I thought they get burnt. Do they not get burnt once?
That's the reason why the duplicators were so much more than the boxes, because the duplicators have got use case sort of they continue to be used, whereas the boxes will be burnt after they get used. Yeah.
Okay. So
basically what I'm saying is if you put in an offer for everything, you're going to get one that's used, which you might not want. I don't know.
There wasn't. I was just interested in how the offer system works, because I was
also you've got to consider there's a fee obviously to convert your ETH to wrapped ETH.
Yeah.
You're taking on. There's also like, I don't know. There's basically that for the sake of like 0.01 ETH, you're probably not going to want to do it because you'll end up spending more just to convert it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why they do it at quite a significant amount lower, because maybe they've got this wrapped ETH that they've already got in their account, sort of thing. Or I did find it fun. I did experiment a little bit with wrapped ETH.
I've done that a few times.
And I was just like, oh, I'm gonna put an offer for this on this, like specific items going in and offering, and it was always like, I don't know, I was always trying to lowball the hell out of them, like half of what they'd listed it for or something like that.
Yeah, but some people are desperate. Sometimes you don't realize that you will see like a big collection, but like, hang on a second, they just literally accepted like.
I was surprised when
people will accept it.
Yeah, because I put like an offer in on all of this one with like a really rare trait, and one of them got accepted, and I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, because I remember I said to you about we look at one of the Fun Apes, and there was a floor price on that. Yeah, because it had a trait that was high. I remember.
Yeah.
But I suppose, do some people not realize they have a rare trait? Is why they
some people don't realize. Some people just like will sell.
Like, oh wow, this is so much more than
So that often when there's the reveals at the very beginning of a project, it's probably really good to just be like, okay, you're going to quickly select all the rare traits and see if there's any really cheap, and then before people realize.
This is our Ghost Boy tips and trick, is it?
Yes, Ghost Boys.
Do you think, right, here's a genuine question for Ghost Boys. Do I buy when they get minted? Like, all right, if I don't get whitelist, which
I think instantly, yes. I think instantly, if you're the first, because it's guaranteed to go up. Like, we started with Ghost Boys at 200 followers. Now it's 100K in less than a month. 115K. No, just over a month. I showed you guys just when I was in Poland Christmas time, I think, or whatever. And yeah, I think it's just gonna. It's going to fly up.
I think the initial listings, however. So what's mint price? Have they announced mint price?
0.025. So it's like 20 quid, 25 quid.
Initial listings, I'm guessing, will be more
100 quid.
So my advice, if you are going to try and buy, because I did try and buy what was it called, the Shilly NFT, right, when that minted out straight away on OpenSea, and I just kept on clicking on them and they kept on going up and up, or like I'd add it to basket, I'd press the button.
Yeah, so when that happens, you have to buy the 5th one. That's what I always do.
Or even further down the list. Like,
And you also need to set your gas higher, don't you?
Yes. Sometimes, if you're doing the first few, but if you're doing slightly down the line, then you won't have a problem.
Yeah, if you basically don't go for the ones at the floor, because they're just going to instantly get swept up.
Botted.
Yeah. Go for like 1, 5 or 10 down, because even though you're paying more, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
Or you've got a higher chance of getting it. But yeah. And don't hold. Just sell.
I know, this is my plan. I'm keeping the one that I mint. I'm going to buy one straight away, and then whatever one's rarer, I'll probably sell.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Right, boys.
One more thing, which is going to be... Oh, yeah, wait, no, that's fine.
Oh, it was true. We had a donut.
No, unfortunately...
No, he disappoints again.
I know. This is my complete bad, because I was meant to go to... I don't know, I can announce this, but I was selected to do England dodgeball trials.
And he no longer eats cake because he's in such good a shape. he won't touch it now. Sugar will never be in his lips again.
No, I'm so...
Next thing you know, he's going to be bringing carrots onto the show.
Yeah. You know, and a protein shake, half a chicken breast and some carrots.
No, I had a place where I was going to go to, but I was just been so tired.
Oh no, man.
From training. I've been in bed for like...
You know what would improve your tiredness?
What?
A bit of a sugar rush.
Oh yeah, I literally... I've been thinking about it. I was like, do I get I was literally thinking like 3 hours before the pod. I was like, I can get to London in about an hour. I meant better and back in London where I want to go, about an hour and a half. But then I've been rushing. I was like, next week I'm not going to disappoint. I'm going to have something sexualicious.
Sexualicious.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that was a word, but I'll take that with me.
I've invented.
Well, on that bombshell.
On that bombshell. Thank you for listening to this week's Web3 with Web3 with me, James.
Me, Chris.
And me, Stash.
Au revoir and enjoy no cake.
Bye.
Bye.